Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. This video comes from the New York State Police. The video here is about 16 minutes long, so I will pause here and there to talk about things instead of playing the whole thing and then going back and talking about it. So let's get into it. So again, it doesn't capture audio. The background to this is this New York State policeman clocked a vehicle doing like 100-something miles per hour and went to go conduct a traffic stop on it. And you can see on the radar there that he's blocking the other vehicles in that vehicle. You can see the other vehicle is doing 100%. So, not really sure what was going on right there. It looked like, for some odd reason, he is holding the body camera up and then putting it back on his chest. I don't understand why he would be doing that. I guess he's wanting to capture the radar here to have as evidence that what the speeds were at, and to probably capture the other vehicles to articulate, hey, this is whatever their statute would be for like endangering other people's lives, reckless driving, stuff like that. And so then he clicks it back onto his chest and then takes it off again to point it up and then puts it back on. I'm assuming that he doesn't have an in-car camera, or if he does, it may be malfunctioning or something. I don't know, but for some odd reason, he's having to do this. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before, so it's kind of odd, and it's not something that I would recommend, because you're now having to operate a vehicle at fast speeds with one hand and then trying to put this body camera back on its mount and hope that it doesn't fall. And if it falls and hits the floor, well, goodbye to it, right? Like, why are you going to be ducking your head down, looking at the floor, trying to get this thing when you've stopped, when the threat's in front of you? So it's not a very good option. In-car cameras are better for this, for capturing stuff, or you can mount it higher. I don't know where it's mounted on him at. It looks like it may be mounted a little bit lower than, at top chest, but you can mount it a little bit higher, or, if you don't like the way it is, and if, you're able to access it, Axon does make a flex camera that has a little wire on it, and it goes to a bullet style camera that you can then mount to your shoulder. There's different options out there other than to take your freaking camera off of your body, pan it around, capture stuff, and then putting it back on, especially while you're driving. Like, that's not a very good idea.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Milepost 108, shots fired! 3D64, I need assistance. Shots fired, milepost 108. Shots fired.
All right, so let's. Well. All right, so he makes the approach to the vehicle. Bad guy shoots at him, and then takes off. This badass trucker says, "Fuck that! I ain't gonna let a cop get shot at." And takes his truck and rams it into the suspect vehicle, disabling it, and then causing the suspect and his, I guess his girlfriend, to have to dismount from the vehicle and take off running. So, shout out to this trucker. You're freaking awesome. I hope that you get some nice leeway whenever it comes to inspections and stuff from that state's DOT. I don't know if their state police specifically deal with that, if they have something else, but hopefully nice things come to you for doing this. Hopefully you got a good life going. How badass is that? I love it. I love seeing the community stand up and say enough is enough. We are done with this war on police. We are done with the bad guys thinking that they can run around unimpeded, do whatever they want without any consequences. This guy stood up and rammed his fucking big ass 18-wheeler in this little piece of shit car. I love that. Love it. All right. So, back it up just a little bit more. And yeah, and so like, who else, whenever you're driving down the road and you come across one of these trucks, how many of you try your hardest to stay the hell away from the rear of it and get around it as fast as you can, all because of that movie Final Destination? I know me. Like, anytime I come across one of those trucks, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get around this truck. I don't want to be behind it at all. All right, so coming in for that approach, he does the standard touch the rear of the vehicle to leave his fingerprints on there in case something happens, and unfortunately something does happen. And holy shit, like, that is probably one of the most scariest sights a person could ever see, is a gun just quickly coming out the window and going pop, 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 pop. There have been many cops, the last thing they saw was something like this: a gun coming out the window right at them. So this is a driver's side approach, and so there's also an option for a passenger side approach. You can go into the pros and cons of both of those. Obviously, if he had did a passenger side approach, it would have been a little bit more difficult for this guy to shoot at him, and or make it more difficult to actually put rounds on him. So with a driver's side approach like this, it did probably make it easier for this guy to put hits on this officer. The officer was hit. He was shot in the arm, shoulder area. It's one of those things where it's case by case, right? Like, there's times where a driver's side approach makes more sense, and then there's times where a passenger side makes more sense. For this environment and for these tinted windows, I think a passenger side approach would be better. But more so just because the environment, it's on the freaking interstate or some type of very high speed roadway here. People suck with driving, and so some people don't get over, right? They don't move one lane over, and so he's right on the line here. This officer is in traffic, and so someone could hit him, right? And that's how a lot of cops have died as well, is just being hit by other cars while either conducting traffic stop or being in the road, managing a roadway incident, doing traffic control or whatever. Lots of firefighters and EMS have been killed just being on the side of the road at a scene of an accident, right? It's a very dangerous place to be. So an environment like this, driver's side approach is not, I don't think, the greatest approach. A passenger side approach is probably better. And then, of course, when it comes to the tactical stuff for gunfighting, it does make it harder for that person to shoot at you when you do now it doesn't make it harder for them to shoot at you, but it makes it harder for them to put rounds on you when you do a passenger side approach. I mean, they can still shoot at you from the passenger side, but it gives you a little bit more of an advantage, right? Because they're now having to make more movements to outstretch that arm, aiming out that back passenger window, or even aiming it out that passenger window, versus them just sitting right there, gun laid across the front of their chest, and then as you get to the window, they go pop, pop, pop with a slight turn, or just doing one outreach with the arm, putting it out the window, and going bang, bang, bang. So I do think a passenger side approach would have been better in this.
3264, shots fired!
So he dumps a few rounds into the suspect and then stops. In this moment, my opinion is anything worth shooting once is worth shooting twice. We can see that he has gone kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. Very spread out hits right here. Has he hit the person inside? Probably not. And so, like I said, anything worth shooting once is worth shooting twice. This is a deadly physical threat. Start putting more rounds into the vehicle.
Three, two, six, four, shots fired! Milepost 108, shots fired!
So he goes to take off. He starts to go pursuit. The trucker crashes into him. He does fire through the windshield. So I guess at this point the guy's getting out of the vehicle after he's been hit by the trucker, and he is shooting through the windshield at the bad guy. Shooting through the windshield is an option. It's not the best option, but it is an option to be able to start putting rounds on target or at the target very expediently. You have to keep in mind that shooting through the windshield does not guarantee that you're actually going to put rounds on target. When you have a bullet passing through laminate glass, which is how windshields are made, right? You have a layer of glass, layer of laminate, and then another layer of glass. It's like a sandwich. When you have a bullet passing through that, that is going to affect the bullet's trajectory. It is not going to be on a straight path anymore from that barrel. It's going to cause it to deviate in some way. It's either going to go a little bit up, go a little bit down, a little bit to the left or right. From windshield to the front hood of the vehicle and maybe a few feet beyond that, you will notice the deviation. Like, it will be very apparent. And then as you increase distance, you're not even hitting the target anymore. So in my vehicle tactics class, I'll set a target at the very front hood of the vehicle, and then do one a couple feet back, and I'll take someone who gets to put the first round through the windshield, right, which is the happy moment for everybody in the vehicle tactics class, right? Like, I think that's part of the reason why most people want to come to it, just so they can say they shot through the windshield. It's like the Disneyland effect for training, right? Like, I got to shoot through a windshield. I got to be all fucking tactical and shit. But I'll put those targets at the very front of the car, and I'll have one of the students, very calmly get a good sight picture, good steady hold, maybe even resting it on top of the freaking steering wheel, and just slowly squeeze that trigger and get a good round off, right? And then we go look at the target. and then we see, which beforehand I'll put a little dot on the target and say, hey, aim for this, and then we'll go look, and then that bullet's nowhere on that dot, right? It's somewhere off. And then move the target a little bit further back and have them do it again, and then you see it's way off. Like, it's way off. Sometimes it's not even on the target at all. And of course, move the target further back, and then and each time they're finding a new place to shoot through the windshield, right? But when the third time, when you move that target really far back, not when I say far back, I'm not talking like 50 yards or nothing. I'm talking like within like 7 yards. The bullets aren't even hitting the target, like nowhere near it. And so that is to help illustrate, like, hey, shooting through the windshield is an expedient option to start putting rounds at a target, but just know that the further they are from the car, the less likely you're going to be able to hit them. So that illustrates why, once you put a hole through the windshield, try to start putting all those other rounds through that same hole. Make that hole bigger so that the following rounds that go through are not being affected by laminate glass. They are just going through a hole, and they will have a straighter trajectory and be able to hit what you want to hit. You can see the blood on his arm where he has been hit, so he is bleeding in this gunfight. He performs a reload, and he ejects the empty magazine. He does an emergency reload, so he has fired to slide lock. So you saw that magazine fall out. He's inserted the new one. However, he has not put that gun back in the battery. And we also see some horrible placement with his trigger finger here. So emergency reloads in a gunfight. Like, that sucks, right? Like, you have fired the slide lock, you still got rounds coming at you, the bad guy's still in the fight, and now you have what is essentially a hammer. When we talk about reloads, number one, it is best to do a reload when you want to do it under your conditions. So even if in training you fire 2 rounds, you want to go ahead and conduct a reload, because in the fight you may not consciously know that you only fired 2 rounds. You may not consciously know that you fired 15 rounds. There have been people who've been asked after a gunfight, cops have been asked after gunfights, how many rounds did you fire? And, some of them get it right. I fired 3 rounds, and sure enough, they fired 3 rounds. Some will say, I think I fired 2, but then they find out they fired like 10 or 12 rounds. And then some say, they think they fired, 6 or 7, but they only fired 3. When the fight happens, you go into fight, flight, freeze response, right? You go into that stimulus response, and your forebrain starts to have some diminished capacity, and your midbrain starts to take over a little bit more. So when we do reloads, we want our reloads to be done the same way all the time. And even in training, like I said, when you fire only 2 rounds, you always want to keep that gun topped off. And so you want to perform a reload. And all the reloads we do need to be the same. Because in the fight, you may not recognize how many rounds you fired, and in the fight, your midbrain starts to take over, and lessons not learned in an adrenalized state cannot be recalled easily in an adrenalized state. You have to perform actions hundreds of times for it to become what is widely known or referred to as muscle memory. Now, of course, someone's going to say, "Well, there's no such thing as actual muscle memory. That's blah blah blah." Okay, I get it. Whatever. I'm talking to the general masses here. Everyone kind of understands the concept of muscle memory, right? Like you do something repeatedly over and over and over and over and over, and it just becomes instinct. And so, the way to do reloads repetitively, the same way all the time, is to bring that fresh magazine up, bring it up to the gun, into your workspace, hit eject, insert new mag, and then immediately work the slide. So if you do your reloads like that all the time, it should become muscle memory. I can tell that this guy has not gotten to that point of being able to master that unconscious competency level of training, right? Because he did not, one, bring fresh mag up and then hit eject and then work the slide. He put new magazine in but never worked the slide on the gun. So now he's still, even though he has a fresh magazine in the gun because the slide is out of battery, he still has just a hammer. We talk about tactical reloads. Sure, a tactical reload is an option. Is it always the best option? I don't think so. Especially for people who are just regular concealed carry, stuff like that. And for people who are not going to be able to get out and practice and train on a more regular basis. And I don't mean like once every couple of years or something like that. I mean like you're actively shooting a lot for training and practice. Because unless you're doing that a whole lot, you're not able to do the thing what I talked about with building that muscle memory, doing it over and over and over and over and over so many times that it is almost like instinctual. The best way I think to do reloads is to cater to what's going to be, the caveman brain kind of thing, and is to just do bring the magazine up to your workspace, eject mag, insert new mag, and then rack that slide. Even if that mag that you're dropping out of the gun has ammo in it, I still think for most people the best way to train for reloads is to drop that mag, even if it has rounds in it, and let it hit the deck. And then if you want to recover that mag later, you can do so. Just squat down, pick it up, and put it back. But everyone, or not everyone, but there will be so many people who are going to argue and say, well, tactical reload's better. If you drop a mag from the gun that has rounds in it, you're losing all these rounds in a gunfight. All right, look, I understand that argument, but hear me out on this one. I am not aware of any incident out there where a person got into a gunfight, fired some rounds from the first mag in the gun, performed a tactical reload where they took that magazine out, retained it, inserted a new mag, put that retained mag back on their body somewhere, continued into the fight, depleted the second mag that was put in that gun, and then went back to that first magazine that they retained, put it back in the gun, and then won the gunfight with that retained mag. I'm not aware of any incident like that. And if there was an incident like that, all these people who are die-hard advocates of tactical reload would reference the fucking shit out of that incident as their justification for why you need to be training for tactical reloads. Right? To my knowledge, it just hasn't happened. And like I said, if it did, they would be referencing the shit out of it. So, the best way to do reloads is, like I said, bring the gun to your workspace, bring fresh mag out, bring it up to your workspace, hit eject that magazine out of the gun, let it hit the deck, insert new mag, work that slide, get that gun back in the fight. If you do that every single time you go to the range, even if you fire just a couple rounds, you let that full mag hit the ground, insert new one. If you do that every single time, it will become a muscle memory, and you'll be able to execute that under an adrenalized state, such as being in the fight.
3D64, I need assistance. Shots fired, milepost 108. Shots fired!
1116.
So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with his radio here. I don't know anything about the radio systems up there. You could hear in the background some dispatch noises. And so when I first watched this video, which I didn't watch it from, exact beginning to this point, I did what everyone else does. I just skipped forward to some of the meat and potato parts. So my first thoughts was he didn't even have his portable turned on, which has happened before in other gunfights. So for officers, you got two radios in most cases, right? You got the radio that's on your side, it's on your belt, it's called a portable radio, and then you have the car radio, which is sometimes referred to as a mobile radio. Well, when you're inside the car, you don't want both radios turned all the way up, because when you key one radio, you'll get feedback on the other, and it'll be like a brrr, like you ever have like two microphones, like at a music stage or something, and you got two microphones on, you get that feedback noise. Well, the same thing happens with walkie-talkies. So when you're in the car, you have your portable turned either all the way down, or some people just turn them all the way off, and then when they get out of the car, they turn their radio on. Well, sometimes people forget to turn their portable radio on when they get out the car. And so that's what I initially thought was going on here, was he just forgot to turn the portable on, and he was just yelling into a dead radio, and that's why no one was responding to him. But we do hear some kind of dispatch noise going on, and so it could be that he's not getting out, and the tone that would normally come on when you're not getting out is, for whatever reason, not been programmed to do that, or maybe he has got his radio set to a different channel, but it's on scan mode, and so we hear the radio picking up on something else during scan, and then when those people were done talking, it goes back into scan, and when he hits the key button, he's transmitting on a different channel that whoever you heard talking is not listening to, or they can't hear him. So that's a possibility. What exactly is going on, I don't know, but he's having to pull his radio out to tinker with it, and that sucks, right? Now, how agencies have their radio systems set up varies from state to state, and even within a state, it may vary from how it's done at a very small local level all the way to a large state level. So very small unit or very small agencies, they may have a radio that is capable of doing a lot of cool shit, but they only need like 4 channels. And so there's not a whole lot of guesswork into what channel they need to be on. You go into bigger areas, they have these radios that they use to the full capability, right? Like they have every freaking channel programmed on this thing. They got all these different talk groups, etc. And it may take some playing with the radio to memorize like how many channels you go to, what you go to bank A, bank B, bank C, channel, bank B, channel 5 is this or whatever. Or that if you go to this one thing, it's going to be these groups or whatever. And then when it comes to, let's say, for example, like a state police, right? So they may have a series of repeater channels and repeater sites across the whole state. And so I'll use Kentucky for example. So like KSP, there's post 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to like 15, or I don't know how many posts there are, but there's quite a few. I know there's a post 15 somewhere. And so like post 3 is Bowling Green. That's what it's known as. And then post 1 I think is like Paducah area. Maybe it's post 2 is Mayfield. But on the radios, you can go to that post or whatever, and that's where their dispatch works from. So if you go to post 3 dispatch or whatever, that's when you key up your radio, you're going to be talking to that dispatch area. The troopers who are in E-Town, they're on a completely different repeater, right? So they're not hearing everything that the troopers in Bowling Green are doing, but their radios are all programmed with all these repeaters in there, so they can just switch it over to what they need to go to. And so I'd imagine, obviously, New York State Police is very similar. They probably have different posts, or I think some of the northern states, I think they call them barracks, the state police barracks. So they may have, Barrack 1 is this repeater, Barrack 2 is this repeater, whatever they want to call them. And he may be in scan mode or something and picking up another one. And he could have had his portable initially. Last time he used it on a TAC channel, and he's just talking, to radio at that point. No one else is hearing him. Anyway, long story short, bunch of different things, or a few different things could be going on with this radio. I just don't know exactly what's going on with it. But these radios are pretty nice. The APX models gives you a nice little view screen right there, so you can very easily see the readout on what you're doing. In case you have, this little toggle switch on the top, you got ABC, and then each channel, it's like 16 channels or whatever on this rotary knob. So it can be hard to remember, bank A or, zone A, whatever designator you call it. Zone A, channel 3 is this talk group. This is, the post 3 or the post 4, whatever. So this little display right here makes it pretty easy for those readouts to show you exactly what you're on. So this is where better technology makes finding channels a little bit easier, especially if you're having a radio that has like 128 channel capabilities, right? Like 128 freaking channels to choose from. That's a shit ton to choose from. So having a screen on there that tells you exactly which one you're on is pretty cool and helps save the time. Used to be, before stuff like this, you'd have just a radio, and on the back or front of it you would see little cheat sheets on there. Like someone would go through and print out a channel list, like channel 1 is this, channel 2 is this, channel 3 is this, and they would make the print really small, like size 5 or something like that, print it out, and then just tape it to the damn radio with clear office tape. And that was how you would figure out which channel was what on the radio, by using that little cheat sheet on there. Now they come built into the radios, which is, like I said, pretty damn cool. Alright, enough nerding out on radio talk.
3D64 comm check, shots fired. I'm hitting the arm. Milepost 108.
Sound check 3D64.
3D64, shots fired. Milepost 108, trying to go Aidsburg. One black male, one white female. A fleeing west to eastbound.
Eastbound, shots fired, mile mark to 108. See, you got a black male fleeing the scene there?
Affirmative, they just hijacked the vehicle. It's immobile because it was in the...
So his arm here, pay attention to his arm.
Collision.
The goosebumps.
The Ford pickup.
So that is something that occurs in fight, flight, freeze stimulus response. You get the goosebumps occurring on your skin.
Get down!
Ford pickup fleeing the scene, hijacked vehicle.
I believe from a evolutionary explanation on why this occurs is when we used to be a lot more hairy, more more like primates. The goosebumps would cause your hair to stick up, kind of like a cat, right? Like you see like the hairs on the cat sticking back up, or some other animals, the hair starts to stick up some. It's theorized that the reason why this happens is it's just an old thing that no longer applies to us because we're not as hairy as we used to be when we were primates. But when it was useful, was the goosebumps would make the hair stick up and make you appear to be larger than what you really are, to make you more intimidating looking. But now it's just goosebumps, right? Like whatever hair we do have sticks up a little bit, but we ain't got that much hair anymore to make us look that really big.
Negative! Not in custody! I'm hitting the arm! Put your hands up!
So the suspects ran to this vehicle up here, and if I remember correctly, I think this vehicle might have been hit by the semi. I think he had stopped really quick in the road. I think the semi had hit him, and then this is where he's pulled over, and I believe the vehicle is disabled at this point. So the suspects get up there, they try to hijack this vehicle and take off, but obviously they can't because it's damaged and disabled.
Put your hands up! Get out of the vehicle! Get out of the vehicle! Get out of the vehicle!
1591.
Put your hands up and get out of the vehicle! Now!
3G22, 3G23.
Get out of the vehicle!
3G22, I need to start I-80 eastbound, mile marker 108. I have a trooper involved shooting.
Be advised, you're still shooting! Put your hands up and get out of the vehicle!
So he has gone from the roadway and has gone down into this lower part of the median here. So he's kind of using the topography to his advantage, almost kind of like going into a defilade. So pretty good use of his terrain here, right? So like on the roadway is, I mean, it's not perfectly flat, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say it's pretty much perfectly flat. And so he's wide open out there, right? Like he could be easily shot, and he doesn't have material between him like the bad guys do, or the bad guy does. You know, he's got a vehicle between him and the officer. So any rounds the officer sends is going to be hitting this material before it gets to him. For the officer, there's nothing but thin air in his vest. So he has used his environment to his advantage. He has gone down into this median area, and when he lowers himself, that changes the bad guy's view, and he can either see parts of him or not see a whole lot of him anymore. I would suspect that from the vantage point of the bad guy, at this point, maybe all he can see is just the upper torso area of the officer. Probably can't see his waist and below. So good thinking on this trooper on moving off into this median area and using this lower area to put essentially some earth between him and the bad guy. It's not the nice barricade cover that we're all used to in firearms training, right? Because firearms training, the ranges are mostly perfectly flat. And so, you got the barrels, you got the plywood barricades to simulate cover. Right? That could be a wall, that could be part of a vehicle, that could be like, put a couple barrels up, hey, this is a tree that you're going to be behind. But when it comes to varying terrain like this, not many ranges out there have a slope like this that you could practice using it as cover. But this is a form of cover. So Good on him. And also there is a bit of concealment as well. So the grass is pretty tall, and that may help with concealing some of him, and he could still see out or whatever. But just know that obviously all this grass is not going to be stopping bullets. So although he does have a little bit of concealment for part of his body, that concealment's not going to stop bullets. But the earth, the ground itself, when he squats down and he can no longer see that car, that means the bad guys can no longer see him, and any rounds they fire is not going to be hitting him.
2-2 and 2-3, believe I am still in an active situation. Shots still being fired.
Get out of the vehicle! Put your hands up! Put your hands up!
Shots fired.
Put your... Forest area, I need assistance! Shots fired! My post 108! It's gonna be a town at Waynesburg! Put your hands up!
Waynesburg.
Put your hands up!
Crazy.
Put your hands up and get out of the vehicle!
Alright, so that is a form of tactical reloading that he is doing. So he pulled the magazine out of the gun, he looked at the back of the viewfinder there, and saw that he had some more ammo in that gun, or that magazine, I mean. And so he wanted to keep that magazine. Well, he pulled it out, and then he worked to put it back somewhere on his body. I think he was probably putting it maybe in the magazine pouch or something like that. Got it into wherever he needed to put it into, and then pulled the other magazine out and put it in the gun. That is one way of doing a tactical reload. The other way of doing a tactical reload is you bring your fresh magazine out from its pouch, bring it up to the gun, you hit eject, and you catch that magazine in that same hand in between fingers, pull it out, and then just very slightly twist that same hand to orientate the fresh mag into the gun, and then insert it, and boom, your gun is fully reloaded. And then you can take that retained mag that's still in your hand and put it back where it needs to go, in the pocket or back in the magazine pouch. Believe it or not, the first method of you reach up, you pull the magazine out, you stow it, and then find new magazine and put it in a gun, believe it or not, that can actually be quicker than doing the pull a fresh mag out, bring it up the gun, put the partially depleted mag into the same hand in between fingers, and then finagle the new one into the gun. Obviously in this one, it was not that very speedy, but when you put people on a timer and you have them do it multiple times, that first method of pulling it out of the gun, putting it away, and then grabbing new mag and putting new mag in the gun, that can be faster. I like that option more because I think there is less time for or less opportunity for a magazine to be dropped under stress. So my thoughts are the tactical reload of holding both magazines in one hand and using your fingers. I think that can lead to accidentally dropping both magazines. And then you're looking at both magazines on the ground and you're like, well, shit, which one has more in it? And then you accidentally grab the one that has less in it and put it back in the gun, and now you're back to the point of having a gun that has fewer rounds in it than what you want. So, and that would be best case scenario during the day when you can actually look down and see those freaking mags on the ground. What if that happens at night? Now you're going to have to turn your light on to look on the ground to see where these freaking magazines are, and then give away your position and or illuminate yourself a little bit better for the bad guy. So the first method of pull the mag out, put it in a pocket, and grab fresh new mag and put it back in the gun for tactical reload is the method I like the best if I had to choose between those two. But as I said way before, I don't like tactical reloading. I like the method of bring gun into your workspace, pull fresh mag out, bring it up to the gun in the workspace. Once it's right up in there, you hit eject, let that magazine fall out of the gun, even if it has rounds still in it. Let it fall completely out of the gun to the ground, and simultaneously inserting new mag into the gun and working the slide. That is the method I like. And as I said before, I am not aware of any incident where a person did a tactical reload and then later on won that gunfight with the first magazine that they retained from their encounter. And if there is an incident out there, all the advocates of tactical reload would reference the shit out of that. And it's just, I don't hear anybody referencing anything like it.
6-4 Scary, be advised I'm hitting the left arm. Put your hands up!
So he is going back and forth between pulling his portable out and talking into it and talking into the shoulder mic itself. And as you can see right there, whenever he did pull it out and was talking into it, he quickly had to get his gun into the fight and then did kind of a two-handed grip with this radio in his hand. That is not helping with the accuracy when he is shooting. That is messing up with your two-handed grip, and you're not able to get a very good two-handed grip on that gun. Again, I don't know how this radio's set up, what he's doing with it. He was talking to someone apparently at some point, but if the remote mic is working, then you need to stick with the remote mic. Just stick with it. That's the most simplest, easiest thing to be able to utilize. And it's very easy to be able to go from pressing that remote mic to letting go of it and it still stay on your body. At this point, because he's holding the portable, if he lets go of that portable, it's going to fall and hit the ground. So that's why he was holding it and still trying to bring it up to a two-handed grip, which is screwing up with two-handed grip and is not making for more accurate shots. And he's already at a disadvantage here with a pistol. A pistol already sucks right out the box as far as accuracy goes because it's a short-barreled pistol, right? It just sucks for accuracy. And so, aside from it being short-barreled, you only have 2 points of contact on there, your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand. And whenever you put something in between your non-dominant hand and your dominant hand hold grip on the gun, you're screwing up with your accuracy.
No, feature 6-4 is the wall, feature 7. Just got hit the right arm.
3G64, all eastbound traffic is stopped due to a collision. I have the suspects hold down in a vehicle they tried to obtain from the collision and it's immobile. They're inside actively shooting. Put your hands up! your hands up!
Thank you, 401.
So I think that right in here, if I back it up just a little bit more, I think you can see some movement around the vehicle. I think this is where they've exited the vehicle and have gone into the woods. Just pay attention to, I guess, right about in this area.
Put your hands up!
So it looks like they're running.
Put your hands up!
Thank you, 401.
Put your hands up! 3D6 for ComSec.
Check 3D61.
The shooter is on foot, fleeing into the wood line, south of I-88. Gonna need aviation and a canine. Put your hands up! Stand up!
South of I-88 at 1119.
He's gonna be wearing, I believe, jean shorts or running shorts and a black hoodie. He's armed with a silver handgun.
He's wearing running shorts and a black hoodie, silver handgun at 1120. SP contact, units en route to I-88, eastbound, mile marker 108. For Trooper Albert,
Turn around!
gunman is fled the scene on foot, southbound interstate, the wood line. Describing as a black male, wearing running shorts, a black hoodie, armed with a silver handgun.
All right, so now things have changed, right? Now they have gone into the woods, and that creates a whole new bag of worms right there. Could this trooper have continued to pursue? Yeah, but that probably would not have been in his best interest. He is down 2 magazines, right? So that first mag emptied. It's by a squad car. That second mag in the gun has been pulled out and retained, and now he's on his third mag, which he has fired some rounds out of. So he is down on ammunition, doesn't have a whole lot of rounds left. There's 2 people, right? There's between those 2, they could have a whole lot more ammo than him. And also pursuing people into areas where you then lose sight of them, that makes it very difficult to continue to pursue them. I mean, he could go in there and then stop once he doesn't see them anymore and just sit and listen behind cover and wait for them to make that first move, hear them moving, and then you start moving, and then when you don't see them anymore, or you stop hearing the sounds of them, you stop and wait behind cover until you hear more. But him being depleted in ammunition, having already been shot, and is losing blood, I don't think it would have been a very viable option for him to go into hot pursuit with these aggressors into the woods. Now, eventually, right, like, people are going to have to go into the woods after these people, okay? So, but that's going to be with multiple people and having long guns, right? Having rifles out. So fighting in the woods is a unique challenge. It is just like urban environments can be a unique challenge, right? Like, there's some similarities between the two as far as people being behind cover and stuff like that. But man, if you've ever played hide and go seek in the woods, like, just imagine, like, you can be pretty close to someone and they not know that you're there. And then if you got a gun, just imagine you being able to get the drop on them. If you play airsoft or anything like that, you already know what's up. Like, you already understand the intricacies of fighting in the woods. And so just imagine one lone person trying to go after 2 aggressors, low on ammo, haven't been shot. It's just not a great idea. I think he did good pursuing up until this point, right? I think he still had advantages and things were working out for him where he was here. But once they've now gone into this environment, it's a little bit different. So can't blame him at all for not wanting to continue chasing after them into the woods. So he ends up maintaining cover here and waits for backup. And then the rest of this video is him just waiting. And then someone finally does arrive, and they start to provide some assistance to him. As far as the rest of the video, we don't see them link up with this guy anymore, or the bad guy. But the ending is tactical team gets there, or more officers there. There's some tactical people, K9. They're there. They corner this guy into a certain area, and this guy ends up self-terminating, leaving his girlfriend or whoever by herself there, and they take her into custody. So I think that this trooper, by chasing after, not just staying behind the car, and going after these people and engaging in this gunfight with them, keeping them pinned down in this car, and then allowing time for more resources to get there, kept the bad guy in a limited area. Had he stayed back at the car and not pursued any more forward, they would have gotten in the car, figured out when to start, and then just went off into the woods and made a pretty good far distance. And they may not have come across them when they did come across them. They may have been able to get whatever's on the other side over here. I have no idea. They may have been able to get to another road over here somewhere and then commandeer another vehicle. So by this trooper staying in the fight, pursuing when it was safe to do so, keeping them pinned down, I think that led to the bad guy feeling like he had no other option but to self-terminate. And that's good, right? Like, this trooper's bullets didn't put that bad guy down, but this trooper, his actions, I think led to that guy being put down. So good on this trooper for staying in the fight. I like that. I like that aggressive, that calculated, aggressive mentality there. I think that's lacking in a lot of law enforcement in this country. And when it comes to troopers, like, it seems like what they do with the troopers seems to be working, because when you look at troopers, you can tell that for the most part they're a lot different than your city cops, right? There's the majority of your city cops could not be troopers. They're just not the right type of people. They would not survive in trooper world, right? They're not going to be able to go do these calls where your backup is 30 fucking minutes away. So troopers are, for the most part, a lot different than regular city cops. And I'd say that whatever went into making this trooper him has worked. And like I said, I think that was probably the leading reason why the bad guy decided to self-terminate, was he did not have any good options to escape, and he knew what was coming. He knew it was going to be the concrete box, concrete jungle for the rest of his life. And so he decided to go ahead and self-terminate. And it had not been for this trooper staying in the fight, pressing on, then that dude could have had the time and opportunity to cover distance and maybe commandeer another vehicle and victimize someone else and then get away. And then turn into some other little standoff where, you know, he would have some more logical thinking and then just give up. But when the bad guys cease to breathe anymore, that is a good ending. That's a problem solved, problem staying solved kind of thing for me. So backup does eventually arrive for him, and they start to apply some pre-hospital treatment to him via a tourniquet.
I think it's too high, man. I don't know.
So he's talking about his injury. He's thinking it may be too high. So tourniquets have a limit, right? You can only go so far high up on the limb before it can't go any further. And so once the bullet is past that point, a tourniquet isn't going to help you, right? Like if you're shot in the chest, you can't put a tourniquet on an arm and deal with that. So tourniquets are only good for the limbs, and for the limbs it is below the highest point that you can put that tourniquet. And when you start getting to like your junctions, that is where wound packing comes into play. That is where having compressed gauze would be needed to pack that wound.
That fucking tractor trailer rear-ended this pickup.
She was looking southbound and at mile marker 108.
So here is something else that is for good training. Performing medical aid on an injured shooter, and the injured shooter still being able to provide lethal cover. So in this scenario, this works because that trooper is conscious, he's still in the fight, he's still able to work the gun. So while the other guy is using both hands to provide medical care, the injured trooper is providing lethal cover to the area where the suspect was last known to be. And this is good training to do, because this could be something that you could experience, right? Just like they're experiencing it right now. Unfortunately, there's so many ranges out there, and even police ranges, where the ability to do this kind of training is limited and handicapped because of stupid rules in the name of safety. I think there comes a point for armed professionals that there are too many safety rules, and it hinders your ability to effectively train. So like cold ranges that have very strict 180 rules, those are not conducive for armed professional training. You have to come up off some of those asinine, archaic rules and go with your 4 cardinal rules, right? Like, don't point your gun. Or number one, all guns are always loaded, right? That's how you treat every single gun. They're always loaded. Never point your gun at anything unless you're intending to destroy it. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Know your target and what's beyond it. You follow those 4 cardinal rules, you're going to be fine. You can have 20 people in front of you, in front of the shooting line. You got 20 people in front of the shooting line at varying distances. And so long as between the muzzle and the target, there's no one standing in between you and the target, and you're following the cardinal rules, you're fine. When you start adding all these other bullcrap rules, that it hinders the effective training for armed professionals. So if you're able to replicate this kind of scenario here, where you have someone with a live gun shooting at a target, and then someone coming in and providing that pre-hospital care, putting tourniquet on, etc., and then switching out where the care provider then provides lethal cover for the injured person, while they do whatever they need to do, and then switching out, that there's value in that kind of training there. But unfortunately, there's just so many places where you can't do it because of goofy safety rules. But this should be mandatory for any armed professional, is this doing training scenarios that replicate stuff just like this.
Ready?
36-4, Stacy's been shot in the arm. He's trying to apply a tourniquet this time. He does have one suspect in custody. One has fled the scene in his arm.
Oh, man. They didn't fucking lie when they said it hurt.
All units responding once again.
Tight, bro.
That's tight, dude.
Eastbound, mile marker.
So, that makes me wonder, is this the first time he's ever had a tourniquet put on him? It shouldn't be. But when the comment he's making, they didn't lie when they said that this would hurt. Yeah, it's true. A tourniquet fucking hurts. It hurts like hell. But that should not be the first time you've ever experienced it. Good training should involve you putting an actual tourniquet on you and cinching it down the way you would want if you was trying to stop bleeding. Now, obviously, you don't want to take your live tourniquet that you're going to be using for EDC and use that, right? You want to have a separate tourniquet for training purposes, which you can buy a training tourniquet. It comes in the color blue, or you can just take a regular tourniquet, designate it, mark it somehow for training purposes only, and use that for training, and then be able to apply it to people and be able to apply it to yourself for self-aid training. But yes, they do hurt, and yeah.
108 in the chain. One suspect was seen southbound from the interstate.
Hey, let him know the tourniquet's on.
Described as a black male wearing a black hoodie and running shorts. His arms a silver handgun.
I think I hit him. I don't know. I saw him drop like 3 times.
Middle Road, Atlanta, 345.
Now, here's the issue. This trooper here, he knows he's responding to a shots fired, trooper's been hit call. Why the fuck does he have just a handgun? He should have been getting there with a rifle. You're going to a gunfight. Bring a rifle. That is one of my biggest chief complaints when it comes to reviewing these officer-involved shooting videos, is during incidents like this or other incidents where officers know there is a freaking gunfight going on, or there are some conditions going on where the gunfight's probably going to happen, and they neglect to get a rifle. Instead, they just jump out the car with a pistol only. Biggest chief complaint. And I think the biggest problem is probably training. I think bad training is probably why this happens. I just don't think that training is being done in a realistic way to instill a better fighting mindset on why we should go to rifle. And also because the rifle classes always start out with you having the rifle on you. Well, that's not realistic, right? For pistol, that is realistic. You're always going to have that pistol on you. It's going to be in the holster. It goes with you everywhere you go. You don't walk everywhere or go everywhere with a rifle. At least for domestic law enforcement, you don't. Military is a little bit different. But for domestic law enforcement, domestic security, armed citizen, you're walking around with a pistol all the time. You're not walking around with a rifle all the time. So when you start off rifle training from the beginning to the end of always having the rifle on you and doing your drills with the rifle always on you, that's not very realistic, because where is the incorporation of getting the rifle out and then getting it ready for the fight come into play? Majority of rifle classes don't do that. So I think that realistic training for rifle class should involve the student having to start drills by getting their rifle out from where they're going to have it stowed. If it's going to be in the trunk, if it's going to be in the cargo space, if it's going to be in the cab, in a rifle mount, whatever, it needs to start with the student getting it from that place, endangering that rifle up, and then getting into the fight. Because what I've seen in other videos is students will, or not students, but the officers will get the rifle out, and then they'll go to shoot it, and they haven't even charged the damn thing. It's not even loaded, and then you'll see them having to charge it. Or they have to take the cap, they'll bring the rifle up to shoot, but then they have to bring it back down to take the caps off the sight or turn the sight on. And I think the reason why that happens is their rifle training did not include them getting the rifle from its storage space and then getting it into the fight. It started with them always having the rifle on them and beginning drills like that. So I think in order to fix this problem where officers are neglecting to get rifles out, I think rifle training needs to be more realistic in terms of getting the rifle out from its spot and then bringing it into the fight. And then also more rifle training and emphasis will help instill a better fighting mindset for them to understand, hey, a gunfight means you need to have a rifle. If you know you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle and bring your friends with rifles.
Which way did he go?
He went that sagebush. He went straight up, and then into the woods that way.
Advise when secured for EMS, they are staging.
I'm gonna go back to the cars.
Come on, buddy. You got the tourniquet on. Yeah. Come on. Okay. Okay. Here, buddy. You got a tourniquet on, buddy? Get this fucking seat up. I'm buddy.
Alright, so more people here. Can't tell for sure. Maybe this guy has a rifle. This guy's got pistol. This guy with pistol. So like even all these other cops responding. Going to shots fired. Officer's been shot. And they're still just getting out with pistols. It kills me. It kills me. I hate seeing this shit.
You got a tourniquet on, buddy? Get this fucking seat up.
I'm good.
I'm gonna. And you guys are 988 again responding. Head to the area that they have it.
All right.
He's good. I got him.
Black male, black hoodie, shorts. He ran literally straight in from where she is. He went straight that way.
Straight in where she is.
I don't know if I hit him or not, but he dropped like 3 times.
Yeah, black male, black hoodie, directly in the south of the woodline where the female is currently standing.
Good.
Respond to exit 24. Exit 24 will meet you there.
Slide in, we're gonna talk.
Go with them. Go with them. Stay with them. Okay.
Here, I got it. We're good. You stay here. We're good. Yeah, we're good.
My car's down there unsecured.
Doesn't care.
Where do they think
Big radio.
Dude, you're not going to be able to get back if you're going to Ellis.
Where's the exact? Yeah. What car are you in? 3G22. 3G22.
330.
Alright, Rick. Stay calm. 3G22 ComSec. This is Shield 3, 4, and 5. 5G 324. We are en route with Trooper Albert back to exit. We already got a relay point set up. Be advised.
3G40 on scene at 1125.
Back to exit 24 with the casualty.
Fucking tourniquet's hurting more than a gunshot.
I'm here through it. I see it. Exit 24, you said, right?
Yeah.
Please, I copy your head.
So it sounds like they've already pre-identified where they need to take the injured officer. So obviously they're going to be their casualty collection point. When we think about pre-hospital care and you look at the history of pre-hospital care, when you look at today versus the past, today an ambulance is just a room on wheels, right? It's like a little miniature emergency room on wheels, so to speak. And so the person's able to sit in the back with a paramedic and the paramedic's working on them while the vehicle is moving. And that level of pre-hospital care did not exist widespread until after the 1970s, when some standards were being put into place, and more places started to adopt that style of pre-hospital care. Before the 1970s, and I think it was like 1975 or 1978 when national level laws and stuff, standards came out for EMS. But before that, you still had that same model, that same level in very large areas like New York, Los Angeles, stuff like that. But for rest of America, rest of the world, any town USA, it was not done like that. Your pre-hospital care before the 1970s consisted of the freaking funeral director or the funeral home sending a hearse out, scooping people up, throwing them into the back of the hearse, and then taking off to the hospital. And no one being in the back with them, working on them. They used the hearse just because, it had a long space in the back that would, normally hold a person, except they're in the box. And they would throw them in the back and take off. And that's how pre-hospital care was done for a while, until standards were put in place and the model of EMS that we see today became what we see today. And then it evolved from there, right? Like, instead of just throwing a person in the back and then hitting the pedal to the metal, they started putting a person in the back with them, right? Starting helping them out, working on them, and then evolved to building an ambulance based off the hearse design. So like your first ambulances looked like hearses back in the day, because that's how they got their start, because people were using hearses to transport injured people. And so they just took the hearse chassis and body and put red lights and siren on it and turned it into an ambulance, and then you had people working in the back. But again, that kind of stuff didn't really come out until the 1970s. And so in between the invention of the vehicle and up until that point, it was people being thrown in the back of the car and driving really fast, which is what we're seeing right now. So like 1930s era medical providing that we're seeing done right now, aside from the use of the tourniquet. So the tourniquet's been put on him, but for the rest of this experience, he's getting 1930s era medical intervention to this point. He's just been thrown in the back of a car and they're taking off super fast. Like, no one else is working on him or doing anything to him. There's a person in the back with him, but they're not doing anything else to him. So he is possibly still bleeding, because he did mention earlier that he thinks the gunshot wound is higher than the tourniquet. So he's still bleeding at this point. And if that gunshot wound is higher past that point of the tourniquet can work, the bullet could go in, hit bone, change trajectory, go into the thoracic cavity, and he could end up having some tension pneumothorax or something like that. So there's some other complications that could be occurring for him, that someone could be doing things to mitigate that, but nothing's being done, because he's just been thrown in the back of the car and they're taking off. Something to think about. Do you throw someone in the back of the car and take off really fast and then get to the hospital or get to the casualty collection point, or do you do some stabilization and then throw them in and do rapid transport? So that is where a foundation of medical knowledge needs to come into play. And unfortunately, for a lot of armed professionals, when it comes to medical training, the most of what people have is just your basic CPR, AED, first aid class. For many agencies and companies out there, that is the most that they provide. And for some agencies, it's a checkbox kind of thing for receiving an accreditation. Everyone's CPR, AED, first aid trained. Great. We get to check the box. Oh, look, we're an accredited agency. That does shit for actual trauma care. You need a TCCC level type of course to be able to address gunshot wounds. A fucking Band-Aid that you learn how to apply in a first aid class is not going to do shit for a gunshot. You can't take a fucking Band-Aid and put it over a gunshot hole and the person's going to be okay. It ain't fucking working. So, as I said, unfortunately, lots of agencies and companies out there do not go above and beyond just basic level CPR AD first aid classes. Some do. They do incorporate TCCC type of training, and that's great because that is the level of training that you need to go towards to be better prepared as a armed professional, as an armed citizen. If you carry a gun for a living, then that means that you could be shot. Your teammates or your loved ones could be shot. And so you need to know how to deal with that. You need to know how to fix them, to save them. You should not only know how to induce trauma, but you should also know how to reduce trauma. And so TCCC level training is something that you should want to aspire to go get. It is a level of training that you need to get. You don't need to be paramedic level, trained or nothing, but you need to know beyond just the academic knowledge of how a tourniquet works. You need to do hands-on with it. Like, you need to practice putting a tourniquet on yourself. Dominant hand and non-dominant hand. You need to practice putting it on someone else. You need to practice and learn about wound packing. You need to practice and learn how to apply a chest seal, how to apply a nasopharyngeal airway, etc. Because those are the things that are going to save a person's life from small arms injuries. A basic first aid class and basic first aid equipment is not going to help address a gunshot wound to a person's chest. It's not going to work. That level of knowledge is not going to help you. You have to have real trauma level pre-hospital care knowledge and equipment to address these kind of things. So when we talk about TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, there's an acronym called MARCH, M-A-R-C-H, that is followed in how you treat battlefield style injuries. And this comes from real world data, right? Like from the last freaking couple decades of warfare that our country has been involved in. We figured some stuff out pretty good. And March starts with M, massive hemorrhaging. One of the leading causes of death for battlefield style injuries is massive hemorrhaging. People just bleeding to death. And so the first thing you address is M, bleeding, right? Lots of bleeding. So that's where tourniquets come into play. That's where wound packing comes into play. And then you move from there and go to the next thing. And this data set, although it comes from, actual war, right? A lot of the stuff that promotes this acronym and this level of care, yes, it does come from things like bombs and artillery and IEDs and stuff like that, but it also has small arms fire in there, right? From rifles and machine guns, stuff like that. Obviously, we don't have that here in domestic U.S., at least not now. But the only thing we have right now is just small arms fire, right? Pistols and rifles. But again, from the data set that leads this level of care, small arms fire is included in that. But just know that from the overall data set, why this model is the way it is, it does include the reasonings due to freaking IED blast blowing people's legs and arms off, and artillery and mortar stuff. But it also includes small arms fire. And so when we look here domestically in the U.S., where all we have is just small arms fire, we don't have freaking IEDs going off. We don't have mortar and artillery rounds going off. Not now, at least. The small arms stuff, we still see the same thing, right? The leading causes of death when it comes to small arms weaponry is massive bleeding. And so, like, when you look at active killer, active shooter type of incidents, the people who are not killed outright in the very beginning, the other ones who do die from these incidents, they die from bleeding to death. Like, they could have survived this incident had they had rapid pre-hospital trauma care given to them. But because they didn't, they just bled to death. One guy that I have talked about before in the past is one of the teachers from the Columbine High School incident. One of the teachers, he went and warned a bunch of other students to take cover, get out, and then was moving through the school to go to a different area, came across the killers. They shot him, but he did not immediately die. Like, it was not a immediately physically incapacitating hit. He was wounded. He retreated to a classroom, and or actually I think he went down and some students helped him into a classroom. But anyway, he ended up in a classroom with some students, and he was alive, talking. The students, they got his wallet out and pulled some pictures out of it to show him his family and everything, keep him calm, and they couldn't do anything else for him. They just had to sit there and hold his hand and watch him bleed to death, because they didn't know how to stop the bleeding. And the Pulse nightclub, there's some deaths attributed to the same kind of thing. People just bleeding out. Someone holding hands and watching someone die because they didn't know how to stop the bleeding. Other incidents, like, it happens in a lot of these incidents. And so not every single death in an incident of targeted violence comes from them instantly dying right then and there. A lot of these people, or I won't say a lot of these people, but some of these people die from just bleeding to death because help did not get there soon enough. And to further illustrate why, as an armed professional, you need to have this level of medical training and equipment, is it could be some time before someone gets to you. Think about this video right here. How long did it take before someone got to him? It took a while. Did he have a tourniquet on himself? I don't know. He may have had a tourniquet on himself, but he may have believed that or knew that the gunshot was too far from the limb to be able to make it effective use of a tourniquet, and so he just chose not to get his tourniquet out. But let's say he did have a hit in the extremity that was needing a tourniquet. If he didn't have a tourniquet on him, think about how long it took for that other trooper to get there. He could have bled to death waiting for backup to get there. And even when all these other people got there, there's no ambulance there. They're having to throw him in the back of the car and take off and go to another exit along the interstate to transfer him to an ambulance. For the sheriff deputies and the other troopers who may be watching, how far out are you in your area of responsibility, and how long could it take for an ambulance to even get to you? As an armed citizen, wherever you live in the rural America, how long does it take an ambulance to get to you? And here's another thing you need to think about too. Ambulances and fire trucks do not go straight to the scene of a shooting. They will not go straight to the scene. They will stage some distance away and wait until they get the all clear from dispatch that law enforcement is there and the scene is secured, meaning it's safe for them to proceed. How long is that going to take for the scene to become safe? Who knows? And then there is the time frame in between these radio transmissions. So you may have the officers talking to their dispatchers, but those dispatchers are not in the same room or same building as the dispatchers for the ambulance or the fire department. So they have to pick up the phone, call a phone number, talk to another dispatcher, tell them what's going on, and then call them back and say, hey, it is now clear for you to proceed forward. That takes time, right? You have to know how to save yourself right now. And you have to have that equipment right now. It can't be 7 minutes later when the ambulance finally gets there. It can't be 10 minutes later when backup finally gets there. You have to be able to know how to do this stuff right then and there. Just like you know how to use the gun effectively and have the gun on you. As I said, you must not only know how to induce trauma, but you must also know how to reduce trauma.
Exit 24.
And stopped. And then a pickup truck stopped because he saw
There's one getting there, helicopter in the
the
air, yeah.
trailer rear-ended the pickup. And then the pickup went down the road, and they
So now he's wanting to talk about what's going on. I would advise against this. Of course, there are certain public safety statements that you should make, like last known direction of travel, and some details like that. But going into the details of what happened, you should probably stay away from that. During fight, flight, freeze response, people experience different things. Some people can experience what's known as auditory exclusion, where they don't hear stuff that's going on. Some people don't even hear the gunshots when they shoot their gun. People have some time distortion issues where everything is compressed really close, and they lose some details immediately after the incident, but a day or two later some of those memories come back. And so this is immediately following this incident, right? Like, he is still being driven to the collection point, and some of his memories may not be able to be easily recalled in this moment right now, but a day or two later they may come back to him. And so when you think about the physical fight, you have to also think about the legal fight, right? So, like, you're going to have to answer to someone in some capacity about what happened, right? There's going to be some type of legal review on this. And so what you say immediately after the incident may not completely match up with what you say a day or two later, because your memory was shit right after the incident. But a day or two later, after you decompress and you're able to think about it, you remember things. In a courtroom, a defense attorney or a prosecutor, whichever, they can make that look really bad for you. They can point out, oh, well, this was right after the fact. You said this, this, and this, but 2 days later you added this, this, and this, and this. What are you fixing your story here? Are you lying? It looks like you're lying. How come you didn't say this right after it, but it took you 2 days to say this? What are you hiding? Did you want to murder this person? So I don't advise speaking in detail about what happened immediately after the fact. You need some rest period, because your brain is under the influence of a drug called adrenaline, right? As I said, fight, flight, freeze response causes you to go through some things physiologically and psychologically. And so it is never a good idea to speak in detail about an incident right after it. You need to wait at least a day or two to speak in detail. Now, in the meantime, yes, you can give some public safety statements that help for the immediacy of what's going on, right? To establish that, one, you defended yourself, right? Like, you were in fear for your life. This person tried to kill you, and you had to act. But don't go into full details about, well, I was standing here, and I stepped here, and here, and they did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Don't go into the full story of it, because you may not have a whole lot of details. Point certain things out. Over here, by this car, you should find a magazine, or you probably find shell casings from this, or if it's in an urban environment, you can point out the suspect was here, I was here, so that means that the backdrop over here, there's a house, that's where the backdrop was when shots were being fired. That would then clue people who are still on the scene to say, hey, we need to go check this house over here and make sure that a bullet didn't go through the wall and hit someone and they're in the house fucking bleeding out. So little things like that can be mentioned and said for public safety purposes, or for evidentiary value, like to preserve evidence, pointing out, hey, shell casings over here, magazines over here. That way things don't get overlooked. But beyond that, no, should not be going into full details immediately after the incident. You need to be waiting at least a day or two after it, after you've come off of that adrenaline rush, after you've been able to decompress, and most importantly, after you have seized legal representation. You got an attorney, right? Because an attorney is going to be able to speak better for you. The attorney is in the most cool, calm, collected state that they could be in, right? Like they were not almost fucking murdered, right? So they are cool, calm, and collective. They can speak very clearly and very intelligently and can represent you very well. And they may know the law better than you. Even as a law enforcement officer, they may know the law better than you, and will be able to make sure that you don't say anything that could be used against you, even if you're 100% legally justified in this use of force incident, because you may not be thinking clearly, you're under stress, you've been traumatized, you may say something that can look bad, right? You could say something like, yeah, I shot the motherfucker. Okay, yeah, you were justified in shooting the motherfucker, but does that sound good as a statement when it's going to be potentially reviewed by a grand jury or something like that? No, maybe not. So that's where an attorney comes into play and can be very beneficial. Again, they have not just been through an experience where they were almost murdered. They're very cool, calm, collective mindset, and they know the law a little bit better, and they know to advise you to not say certain things. Not that they're going to try to, be engaging in a game of trickery and game it for you, right? Because you did something wrong. No, it's just a good policy to have legal representation after an incident like this while you're making your statement. Because again, anything you say can and will be used against you, right? And you have the constitutional right to the Fifth Amendment not to do anything to self-incriminate. And that's just from the criminal side too. Like, you also got to think about the civil side as well. And so, although you may win a criminal suit, it doesn't mean that, depending on what state you're in, doesn't mean that you then cannot be sued. So you may not ever be charged criminally, but you may be sued in a civil suit. Your agency, may find itself in a civil suit. You may have been cleared from any criminal wrongdoing, but the civil suit's still going to take place, and all these statements that you've made are going to be potentially used in the civil suit. And so any wrong thing you said, like, yeah, I shot that motherfucker, well, guess what? Criminally, you were fine, but in the civil suit, well, now the attorneys for the other party are going to use that statement against you and your agency, your company, or just you, depending on if you're working or you're just an armed citizen, whatever. So, don't be going into the details right after a shooting.
Hijacked it from that fucker, the owner.
Precinct
Pulled him out of it.
33091 in custody, 1126.
Pulled him out of it.
Okay.
And then
All right, so that's where this video ends. Again, the way this incident ended is the suspect was cornered in a section of the woods by police and canine, and he self-terminated instead of surrendering, which is a good ending to this incident. Problem solved, problem staying solved, less bad guys out there, the better. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.